DeVos is reminding people that one Joe Biden at one time used to support school choice. No mas.
Well, Martha, Joe Biden probably doesn't remember it, but in 1997, he gave an impassioned speech on the Senate floor in favor of school choice. Today, he's turned his back on the kids.
Here's what he said in 1997, quote, "Unlike some opponents of vouchers, I have never categorically opposed the idea of public money being used under any circumstances for private school education. Rather, and I think I've been forthright about this from the very beginning, my concerns have been very specific. First, I have questions about whether private school vouchers violates private school vouchers when it involves private religious schools is legal. And second, I have deep reservations about taking money away from underfunded public schools. But, Mr. President, I do not believe that simply because I've always voted a particular way, I should be locked in that position." So here he is saying he's open to the idea of school choice, but he's not anymore.
We're talking about, and he's turned his face in favor of the teachers union and what they have to say and what they have to demand. And it's really shameful.
Here's what he said back then. Quote, "When you have an area of the country, may I interject, Baltimore being such an area where you've got 13 public schools where 0% of kids can do math at grade level, and another 5 or 6 where 1% can, which means in 50% of the public high schools in Baltimore, either there are 0% of kids who are math proficient or there's 1% in half of the public schools in Baltimore. Maybe that is what Biden referred to in 1997 when he said, and I'm quoting, when you have an area of the country, and most often here we're talking about inner cities, where the public schools are abysmal or dysfunctional or not working, and where most of the children have no way out, it is legitimate to ask what would happen to public schools with increased competition from private schools, and what would happen to the quality of education for the children who live there." End of quote. He also later on says this in his speech. May I quote him? Thank you. Quote, "Most of the opponents of private school vouchers argue that with more kids attending private schools, the support for public education will be drained. To date, that assertion has largely gone unchallenged, and I'm not sure it should anymore. Is it not possible that giving poor kids a way out will force the public schools to improve and result in more people coming back?" End of quote.
Well, Martha, Joe Biden probably doesn't remember it, but in 1997, he gave an impassioned speech on the Senate floor in favor of school choice. Today, he's turned his back on the kids that we're talking about, and he's turned his face in favor of the teachers union and what they have to say and what they have to demand. And it's really shameful. Parents are demanding more choices today as their schools across the country are not serving them and the needs of their students. And we're seeing parents forming learning pods, micro schools, doing homeschooling, trying to access schools for which they have to pay tuition, small.
Quote, said Joe Biden in 1997, "Even if vouchers were to take money away from the public schools, and I should point out that not all voucher proposals do, that does not in and of itself mean the public schools will be harmed." End of quote.
Faith-based schools and other things, other schools. And so the demand for school choice and giving parents the control about their kids' future is continuing to grow, and it's a really important point in time.
One more time, polls show that urban parents living in the inner city, I'm talking about black and brown parents, majority of them support vouchers that will give their kids an option out of an underperforming nearby government school. White Democrats do not. Do white Democrats have their kids in inner city public schools? No. Would they put them there? No. But are they mandating that your kid go there? Hell yeah. And still pull that lever for the Democratic Party when you've acknowledged that getting an education is a route from poverty to the middle class? I don't get it.